Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 5th Dairy Forum of CLAL. I am Matteo Bernardelli. I'm a journalist and one of the two chairing persons of today's session, which is a preview of tomorrow's meeting, which will take up the whole day. The other chairman, much more qualified than I am, is Mr. Nicola Cesare Baldegri, the president of the Grana Padano Consortium. For sure, a person who knows the market and the dynamics of this industry much better than I do. Thank you very much for being here. We are in the main room in the auditorium of the CLAL conference, the daily forum, which will take place tomorrow. This is a restricted meeting, but we have chosen the very same room to allow for simultaneous translation and to provide the whole conference in streaming. I would like to leave the floor now to the founder of CLAL, Mr. Angelo Rossi, who will introduce the trends of the dairy market. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Rossi because I'm deeply convinced of the fact that the CLAL Forum is for sure a significant event that gives us the opportunity to debate what is happening in the dairy industry worldwide. More than 180 countries visit the CLAL website, and CLAL is the only one to organize once a year a forum focusing on specific topics with the involvement of the main players worldwide. So thank you very much for being here. I would like to thank also our foreign guests who have come to talk about futures and global dairy trade.
Okay, grazie. Now, first of all, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to have CLAL people to come here with me. I'd be very pleased to have them all here with me. So we have Francesco, Mirko, Elisabetta, a newcomer, Alberto, Marika. At home we have Alessandra, and Alessandro Duca. He is in Nice. I think we can give them a big applause, a warm applause to these people. And then we have also Carlo, who is connected with us. He is in London. He is at the moment working at the Guardian. He helped me set up the IT side of CLAL. And then you've seen my son around. He tells me, my dear father, I can help you with some other things, not with milk specifically, because I have another job. And then I also would like to thank my son's wife, because she keeps helping us, but some of these people are at home because they have their own problems to take care of. So we're a family, as you can see, and you can see what the family members are. So here you can see the new generation of CLAL, and I will hand down to these people my business in next future. So Francesco, go back to your position, because you will have to help the guys work properly. Okay, please go to my right so that I can move freely. Now here on the slide you can see Teseo. Teseo was my father. He was a farmer. I think in the room we have a few farmers present. So Teseo is a new website devoted to the agricultural market, because I believe it is increasingly important to take into account and to consider all of the supply chain. Without the farmers, without the producers, we would not be here. Now, processors also are very important, as are consumers. So we need to really consider all of the members, all of the elements of the supply chain. Teseo will be up and running in October. October, and it will be presented to all of the producers of the world. This is our goal, to present this website to all of the producers of the world. So I think I'll start my presentation about the market trends, or at least how I interpret the market. So please notice this is my own interpretation. So we have a website which is constantly online with the market analysis. So let's move on. So this is a website. Now here on this page we are showing you the connections, basically what is moving, what is behind the dairy market, the rules that are behind prices, supply, demand, the relationship between demand and supply, and the consequent commercial projections of such relationship, imports, exports. All of this is affected by international players, but also by international events. And then the level also of the relations which are organized at international level. Here you can see the international items which are connected to our market. So agricultural policies, quota systems, the monetary policies, the dollar value, the dollar-euro exchange rate, the cost of energy and energy resources, the world market, globalization. So these are all international features. The price system, the number of herds, the number of cows that do exist in the world, and then international events, conflicts, emergencies, epidemics, drought, excessive rain levels. The volatility of the market is caused by major events, by international events, and also by failing to understand the correlations which do exist in real time. Here you can see the level of GDP of different countries and related data, inflation, wealth distribution, so which has to do with the level of wealth of a country, agricultural farms, sanitation levels, technology, feeding, foodstuff, the cost of production, labor staff, energy, waste management, another important issue as well. I think it's so let's now start to look at this other part of our website. Here you find something which, in my opinion, is key. On this slide, you can see very clearly that, and incidentally, we have Fonterra, which accounts for 5% here. So 5% which basically controls 40% of the market, 5% meaning Oceania, Australia. So this is something which kinds of introduces an unbalance onto the market. Say something occurring in this part of the world, say a drought, prices might go up in an uncontrolled manner. And so this is something which is to be taken into account, and I'd like you to think about this. And then production. The production built in the world is going down. In Europe, here, green, you can see production is going down. On the 31st of March, there was a reduction of quotas of production. And then in red here, USA production is going down, New Zealand as well. We're witnessing a decrease in production because producers are getting less money, which means they will produce less. We're very far from 2013, when we had drought in New Zealand and a lot of rain in Europe. So 2014, 2015, and then we see the last month. Australia, which is a big world player, accounts for 2.9% of production more in April. USA plus 1.7%. European Union 1.9. What is the European Union doing at the moment? It is increasing production. Certain countries, the Netherlands, are growing production by 6.57%. France has also started to increase its milk production. But We don't have a lot of data on Eastern European countries. I don't think they are producing a lot of milk more, and I don't think Italy will be assigned higher quotas. But then you need to take into account the liberalization of the market. Here you can see Europe, and I'd like to say this thing to my friend of New Zealand, of Fonterra. Now here you can see the main countries, Australia, USA, New Zealand. Here you can see the production of cheese, of butter, and then the production of milk powder and the production of whole milk.
Noi è il formaggio.
And also the production of skimmed milk. Now you can see that it is cheese which is holding, cheese production which is holding. Powders are somewhat of secondary importance to the system, not certainly for New Zealand, and we'll see this later on. So it is cheese which is key, which can support business. And then here on this other slide you can see that Australia has produced less whole milk powder and is producing more skimmed milk powder, and this kinds of shifts the profitability related to this product. Here you can see the European Union, the same, whereas Americans are kind of going forward gradually with their own policy. Here you can see Europe over the past 3 months, lower production because of quotas, which have been now have changed and were set on the 31st of March, and this data is constantly updated. This is a data you can find online, which is constantly updated on a daily basis. Here, Italy, since we are in Italy, we need to show you this page. Here, broken down by region, 2% number, 16% Emilia-Romagna, and then you can see the data for different regions. Others, for instance, 22%. Here you have a reduction because of the quota system, and so we're producing less in this period in Europe as well. Let's now see demand. Now, demand is regulated by GDP, basically. And you can see that in developed countries, sorry, I do apologize, in developing countries, you have quite good demand, plus 4.4, plus 4.75, plus 4.35, which is what is expected, which means that developing countries should increase the demand of milk or dairy products, but gradually. Developed countries, you can see, have a higher GDP, but I don't think we're not going to consume more dairy products. My feeling is that we are not seeing a lot of growth of dairy products, whereas in the United States consumptions are higher, but American consumers are different from European consumers. Now this oil, you can see the oil price trend in blue and the trend of whole milk producers. So there is a correlation between the two, because oil producers tend to consume more whole milk powders. Venezuela tends to shift from whole milk powder to skimmed milk powder, depending on the price. So a low oil price does not help the sales of milk. So when you have a low oil price, you have oil-producing countries slowing down their purchases there and consumption of milk. Here we are looking at the different geographical countries, first quarter, and the comparison year on year. And here you have, as I said, the different geographical areas. East Asia is buying less, whereas we have an increase in the purchase of milk by Africa. The same applies to Middle East, Americas, and others like Russia have withdrawn less milk, have bought less milk. Here others, 259 means that the number of nations which are increasing milk is growing. Why? Because prices at the moment are low. And so if we try and break down this part in green, let's take the Southeast Asia only, and forget the rest. So you can see that there was a decrease by 16.35% of purchases in that area. So in that part of the world, those countries bought less milk. And this is China. Now, everybody thinks that China can be a way for us to get out of this situation. So all companies, Fonterra as well, Wilson, the chairman, or the president, together with Theo, I don't remember his name properly. Now they hope that China can kind of support the recovery of the market. However, forecasts were wrong in 2014. Tomorrow we should have production data. We are the only ones having this chart or processing this data. Look at this, wrong purchase. In China you don't have statistical data. If you remember last year, there was a lady from Millbury, I think, Nate Dairy, that she talked about how things are going. But Americans made wrong forecasts by 300,000 tons when trying to assess Chinese stocks. Why this problem? Because there are no official statistical data, so you need to be very careful. So it is important for exporters, when they go abroad, they need to ask very precise, specific questions to their colleagues there, because sometimes from this exchange of opinion you can have an idea of how things are going. In red is what they produce in China. If you look at this in red, the bar chart in red shows what they produce. In green is their imports, and they are importing 23% less. These are the data of April. We already have data of China for April. The trend basically is always the same. Imports are not growing. They are basically stable, basically flat. Russia, another problem. This is what happened in Europe, actually. 69%. This is Belarus, I'm sorry, which is a big supplier. This is the monthly trend, and in yellow here you have the European Union. Last year we stopped supplying products in August, and so basically the European Union disappears from Russia and only Belarus remained. Let's see cheese. What happens with cheese? Now, the imports of cheese, they are importing 58% less of cheese. They said that they are going to grow their own production of cheese and of their own dairy products. I am somewhat perplexed about this. I heard that they are buying from India. I don't know whether our Indian friend here can tell us something later on. It looks as if India is going to be an official producer or official supplier of cheese. At the moment we have Serbia, Kazakhstan and Chile supplying cheese to Russia. I don't know what kind of evolution we can have in or with China. I am against embargoes and blocks. I, on the contrary, favor agreements. When it comes to trade, you need to have agreements. If you manage to have good official trade, then there will be no war. And for this reason, I strongly support the World Trade System. And then this is something new which is becoming quite important. The USA we can't see the prices down here. I don't know why. Open it up completely. Expand the slide. Okay, thank you. So, USA it has grown imports from New Zealand, from France, from Ireland, and from other countries. So in the USA we have a major purchase of butter in this case. Basically they have discovered butter in the United States, and we will have a presentation tomorrow about a university professor who will be speaking about the genomics of butter. And you can see here the trend, which is constantly going on. Quite impressive, I have to say. So we're speaking about the United States and butter. To me this is very impressive. Let's go on. And stocks are not really abundant. And here you can see the imports of cheese. And I like this slide and this data because, being Italian, I like to see that the United States is importing cheese. And the first supply of cheese to the United States is Italy. So I'm very glad about this because I'm Italian, of course. And you can see that they are importing a lot of cheese from the Netherlands, from Spain. Here we have a piece of novelty. Spain is exporting cheese to the United States. Perhaps I'd like somebody to tell me what kind of cheese Spain exports to the United States. So they are growing strongly the imports of cheese in the United States, and on a monthly basis we can see that there are very good trends. Okay, let's forget prices for a second. So let's look at exports. So that was demand. Let's now look at exports. Now it takes some time to get the data from the very heavy database, January to March. Here you see the slowdown that we saw before at a general level, and here by looking at milk, butter, cheese, skimmed milk powder, whole milk powder, you can see that there was a decrease in all segments with the exception of skimmed milk powder, where you have an increase in exports. Now let me tell you that exports are going quite well because prices are low. This is what I said before and I repeat it again. Here you can see the United States exports of dairy products. So let's see United States, New Zealand, and then another country. The United States, everything went well until 2014. At one point now, because of the strengthening of the dollar versus other currencies, exports decreased and prices in the USA are going down. So here we have a decrease of prices, but also we have a decrease of exports by the United States. Let's now see New Zealand. It's going to be very interesting to see New Zealand, and I'd like our friend after to make comments about this. New Zealand. Now you can see yellow is whole milk powder, WMP. Whereas butter, you are leaders in butter. This is cheese. I am glad to see that you are increasing your exports of cheese. I know that you are making investments on mozzarella cheese to export in China, and this is good because we want cheese to be exported, because too much powder in the world creates a lot of problems to everyone. Although, you know, sometimes we speak well about powder, but we know that it can create problems. What I'd like to know, perhaps from our friend later on, is that I see a trend. Well, it's not an impressive trend, but it is growing. Exports are growing. Of course, whole milk powder is no longer the driving factor. If you put together the two powders, you can see January, April 2015, they've been flat, which means that your customers are buying low-price products. Skimmed milk powder costs less. Here you can see Europe. You can see that the core business of Europe is cheese. And here again in Europe, we see a lot of exports of skimmed milk, less cheese, because Russia no longer buys, no longer imports cheese from Europe. Whole milk powder has never been one of the driving factors against European exports, and butter is going quite well, whereas we see a slowdown in cheese. Now, these are the data as at the end of March. What happened in April and May? So more powder will be produced, which probably also means more butter. And we shall see whether the exports of butter will hold well. Powders are going quite well, and the dollar-euro exchange rate is helping us, is helping Europe, of course. And then Europe, here you can see the milk equivalent to see where Europe exports products. It exports to Africa, to Southeast Asia, and also in the Middle East, whereas we have seen a collapse of Russia and of adjoining regions outside of the European Union. What is going quite well, you can see exports are going quite well, but we see a slowdown. It's no longer plus 21%, which, as I said, is part of the greater picture of a slowdown of the market at world level. Now let's move to stocks. Now we process this chart. The idea was given to me by a person working for a company, and I don't see that person here. He told me, try to take milk production less exports in milk equivalent. So in January, February, March, versus the previous year, basically we have a similar situation that we had in 2013. Somehow lower production, a bit more exports, but this is the situation. We have to monitor this situation. We already have the data for New Zealand exports. It's important to understand it. Like 2011, see how this situation changed. 2013, price increase because of drought. This is what happened. So we worked out this chart to monitor, to follow on a monthly basis the trends and to kind of draw some conclusions. If I were a buyer, I would use this type of chart. Here you can see stocks. USA, we see an increase in stocks of powders. This is Europe. This is the publicly available data, or if you wish, private data. These are not data coming from companies. Here you can see the two things put together. I'm almost done. Now, I like this chart. I like how we process this data. Here, we took powder production minus export, and we worked out a trend. And then on a monthly basis, we produce this chart, which is the monthly trend, which means that powder is going quite well. But we are kind of consuming stocks of powder. Here you can see the trend over the past 3 years, and you can see that the stocks of powders are going down. We don't have a lot of inventories of S&Ps in our warehouses. or at least we shouldn't have a lot of powders. This is what we infer. I know that there are analysts. So we also have Mr. Thiele here, Errol Richard, I think it's down there, a friend of mine. Perhaps they can give us some ideas on how to improve our data processing methods. Any other suggestion from anybody else is also welcome. Now, butter stocks. The United States don't have stocks, as you can see, which, and here perhaps I have a question in my mind, and I was talking about this before with my friends. Now, okay, consumers at the moment eat more butter and they buy more butter, but perhaps even the industry uses a greater quantity of butter. I mean, I don't go around the United States to ask these questions, but perhaps it would be interesting to see whether this is what is happening in the United States. Maybe Charles can tell us something tomorrow. Here, Europe, butter stocks. You can see that stocks have gone down in Europe as well. Here you can see the European Union butter stocks as at the 31st of March. It's going down, but at the end of March we had a theoretical increase of stocks. So the question, the excess in milk that we are producing in April, is butter being exported totally? But we don't have updated data. We have good updates from Germany, from France. We could put things together to monitor the overall trends in different countries of the European Union, but we don't have official European Union data of this. And then this is cheese stocks. Basically, cheese is produced on demand. The demand has decreased in Europe, and for this reason, I wouldn't really consider cheese stocks, because usually, as I said, cheese is produced on demand or based on demand prices. Now, I wanted to show you this chart. This is S&P. And perhaps we should take a look at it, because this is the key element of our market. It tells us that the trend of prices is one of prices increasing, and then we have these two peaks which are related to external factors, which I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation. So today, powder prices are growing. So I agree with what the president of Fonterra said. I agree with the statements of the president of Fonterra, but I'd like to invite the New Zealanders to understand that this is not the real market. The market shows another trend. Our producers who are here know that if you have a peak, you have a trough the next year. This is what happened. Has it not, Mr. Dalla Bona? This is what happens. But these are the prices. And when you have these peaks, it means that you have external factors having an impact. And this is at least my opinion. So again, a question to Fonterra. This peak in April 2013, well, my personal interpretation, now in my opinion, this was a mistake made by buyers when they bought. I mean, they had news that misled their attitude. So, which means that what is important is to have access to certain and certified information. So that was a mistake, in my opinion, by buyers, because as you can see, after that you have a collapse. Here you have another peak. Prices went up. News were given about the possible drought in February, and buyers grew prices. and they tried to have business move along or on their side. So again, what is important is to have precise information about the market and what goes on onto the market. Now, the two powders, here you can see, actually reflect the moments of drought. You can see prices are growing, as you can see, as a trend, but they tend to go up considerably when you have external factors like a drought that has an impact onto the market. Below here you have the prices which you can use for comparison purposes in euro and in dollars. And this morning I met with the representative of the global dairy trade. I'd like to thank Nolan. Very, very good. He is actually a very competent person because he kind of helped me place global dairy trade into this context as well. Let's take butter here. This is butter. So when it comes to butter, in 2014, you have a collapse, a marked reduction of prices. In 2009, there was a crisis, but then the price of butter keeps holding up. If you look at fat matters, we need to place a trend curve to see the trend. Let's look at cheese only. World prices. Now, 2009, again, a collapse. But you can see that prices are always well supported, and then prices peak when you have extraordinary factors like in 2013. But otherwise, prices follow a gradual trend whereby prices are increasing gradually. Now, this is, to me, or to Europeans, a very important slide. The European Commission has told us that we're good. This is what they tell us. Because whereas in the world, this is the price of powder and butter throughout the world, prices went down considerably. We have never gone below the weighted average. Here you can see the weighted average price of a number of countries. So we were very good. The Commission behaved well. Are we sure? Let's look at another slide, and we'll come to very different conclusions. I criticized the approach used by the Commission, and I'll tell you why. So this is the pricing of Germany in green. In red, you have the price of Lombardy. This is the intervention price. Well, over and above the fact that Italy is affected by world prices, there's no doubt about this. When prices at world level go down, Italy too has to decrease its prices, and we can see it there. So, but since Italy, like Spain, doesn't have sufficient levels of milk, Italy has to buy milk somewhere else. Now, you can see that our Italian companies in 2009 bought milk, the same applies to Spain, very low prices. They bought powders, so below the intervention price. And so when on the 24th of September 2013 the analysis was made and was submitted to Brussels, I criticized that analysis. I'm not part of any committee of the European Union. I tend to have fun looking at these things at home, but I took part in a conference, however, and I criticized that analysis. When it comes to Europe, you need to discriminate between northern European countries, southern European countries, and eastern European countries. In that case, if you have three different analyses, you will be able to understand the market. A public body, a public authority should do this. On the contrary, they do an analysis for Europe without any discrimination. I mean, you, on the contrary, have to be able to discriminate between the different regions of Europe, not because of any reason, but logic. I mean, you need to be logical in doing this kind of analysis. Now, when it comes to milk, I mean, we need milk. That's why we need our farmers, our producers. Now, a vet said, let's take 70 kilos of maize, 30 kilos of soybean, and he worked out prices. In this period, the producers lost money, and if you go back in time, this is what actually happened. Farmers lost money, and I think that you need to have a way to measure the cost, thus avoiding milk producers to produce at a loss. So again, in these very recent times, I criticized the methods used to calculate the cost of production of milk, because you can't generalize things. You have, producers with 20 cows, those with 100, another with 200, 300, those that produce Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. I mean, they're different. So here perhaps we should guarantee prices with milk margin protection. Perhaps, dear Ornella, in October we will have somebody coming here to explain producers how they can, produce without losing money. Now, Giovanni Guarnieri, who is a producer, well, he might tell us that he has higher prices, or he can apply higher prices. But this is the overall analysis, generalized analysis, which was done. But then if you get down to the details, you can see perhaps quite different situations. So that's the last slide. So last year we produced 9.9 metric tons more. We export 4.17 metric tons more. The difference is production, which caused the price to decrease. This is the price in New Zealand. In Europe as well, had a decline in prices, 29-30 euros at the moment. This is what is paid in Europe, 25 euros in New Zealand. So when you produce more milk, prices go down. So, and I hope that in the future we will be able to find a balance. I will now move on to my conclusions. Now, when it comes to my conclusions, what I'm going to say, assume the lack of external factors like wars, epidemics and drought. The production of milk and powders will continue to grow, especially because of the demand from developing countries, especially SMPs, where the United States, Europe and New Zealand will fight for demand. We don't see movements or events on the supply and demand side that have the potential to change the current situation. So we don't see any elements that might disrupt the current situation. The European Union depends on exports and, of course, has competitors like the Americans and the New Zealanders. And so things should, however, move towards a balance. Italy, and I have to speak about Italy, a country that is a cheese producer. 51% of milk produced in Italy is used for protected designation of origin cheese. Italy will be affected partly because it imports milk or dairy products from European countries Union. For this reason, it is necessary to have timely information about the milk market to be able to follow the situation. I hope that different players of the supply chain, production of producers of milk, processors, can join their forces to set up their own study institute office, and here I hope that by doing so they will be able to really have updated data to be able to understand what the situation is. I think that producers should avail of what the situation is, and they should do that in real time. Sometimes they call me and they want to know what the situation is, and we need to be able to tell them what the situation is via any means you like. A better knowledge might help us decrease volatility. We shall be speaking later on about futures, which is another way. CLAL.it is available to work on this project represented by the Studies Center. And when I speak of Studies Center, I also was referring to CNIL, IFE, CEVEL, EMI, and ISMEA. So we need to communicate the players in Italy and in Europe the need to do this. DMK, I think, is also present, and I know how and what they do. I think that if we give them updated information, real-time information, I think it could be a benefit for all industry. So, what you saw now here is a slideshow that will be transformed in a PDF format that you might download. So that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Grazie ad Angelo Rossi che...
Thank you very much, Mr. Rossi. I can only testify that what he has told us is completely updated. This morning he was touching up his presentation, and I have to say, since he's drawn some conclusions, I do not have to do that. Please allow me to summarize very briefly market trends according to CLAL vision and the vision of most analysts. Stability, low prices in 2015 in the dairy sector, and I dare say the recovery will probably take place in 2016. Then, of course, we shall have some time for questions. CLAL has actually suggested a research center. I believe that CLAL can provide us with a valid contribution, since it focuses on 180 countries, so it provides material also to institutions. But